In 2016, the infamously known Funkytown video hit the internet. It's a video that shocked everyone, even being dubbed as one of the worst videos to be seen on the internet. There was even a point in time where it was on YouTube, and even TikTok, giving out free trauma to the youth. While many were simply tempted by their own curiosities and decided to watch it. As traumatic as the video is, it still left me with questions. What could the victim have possibly done to receive such an unfathomable punishment? Or were these men just some sick, barbaric lunatics? We're talking about cartels here, so that's not far from the truth. But what led up to one of the most horrible pieces of content to be created? I want to give more of a backstory behind what happened in the Funkytown video, offering the most plausible explanations and who was possibly behind it, rather than go into detail about what the victim suffered, because there's tons of videos on that already, and I think it's good to have different perspectives on what happened. It should obviously be known that the video is being filmed by a Mexican gang or cartel due to their accents, except that cartels tend to be more structured and organized, while gangs tend to commit more petty crimes. But the men in this video, they have no limits to their barbarism. You see, around the time when the infamous video touched down on the internet, an intense conflict between the Gulf Cartel and the Los Zetas was taking place around northeast Mexico. They remained rivals to each other, and each side was doing their best to outshock the other. The Los Zetas splintered away from the Gulf Cartel in 2010 and held sway over areas in eastern, central, and southern Mexico. The Funkytown video was far from the first shock video to be released during this intense conflict. 1 year later, after Funkytown was posted, another video was uploaded on Blog del Narco, a citizen journalism blog that documents the details of the Mexican drug war. In the video, it shows old school Zeta members, also known as Vieja Escuela, whom have splintered away from the Los Zetas. In the video, they're interrogating a supposed rival Gulf Cartel member, until they begin removing his limbs while he's still conscious. However, the cameraman's voice in the video sounds very similar to the guy in the Funkytown video, and considering the feud between the Gulf Cartel and the Los Zetas at the time, who are known for being one of the most dangerous syndicates in Mexico, they use some kind of central southern accent from places like Jalisco, Michoacan, or Guerrero. Multiple cartels have territory in these places, however. These cartels likely have ranking members from either one of these areas. You see, in the audio of the Funkytown footage, at one point I believe you can hear them say, "Así somos los Jaliscos," which means that's how we Jaliscos are. Which could also suggest that this could be the CJNG, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, who have possibly caught hold of a rival member, which could be the Knights Templar cartel, who was a main enemy at the time. The CJNG are one of the most dangerous organizations out of Mexico, and supposedly one of the most strongest drug cartels next to the Sinaloa, whom they have splintered away from in 2010. It's also considered one of the fastest growing cartels. They also have extreme levels of barbarism. So perhaps there's a connection to what we hear in the video when they consider themselves Jaliscos. Initially, many believed that the victim was an abducted student of the 2014 Iguala kidnapping, where over 40 students were taken from the cartel after they seized a bus and attempted to protest against the local government, which is a truly wild case with many twists and turns in itself. There is shocking footage of the event. However, the abducted student in question had hands in the video, whereas in Funkytown, the victim does not. Therefore, the victim is not one of the abducted students. Also, in the Funkytown video, you can hear one of the men saying, "Te equivocaste de lado," which means something around, "you picked the wrong side," or "you got on the wrong side." The expression itself is implying that he could have joined with their rivals, and or was within enemy territory, and was simply apprehended. Many believe that he was simply trespassing, which was the reason for the victim's punishment. But does trespassing warrant this type of absolutely foul punishment? Certainly, it must be deeper than that. Another more known theory is that the victim was a member of the La Familia Michoacana, who have territory in Michoacan, the state of Mexico, and Guerrero, and that the Funkytown video was a result of infighting within the organization. Lalo Montecas was third in command of the LFM behind the brothers El Pez and El Freza, The brothers controlled the Guerrero state faction of the LFM, and Lalo controlled the Michoacan faction. Around the time, multiple factions within LFM were fighting against each other and creating division amongst the ranks. So it's plausible that the ones doing the attack were people of Lalo Maticaz's allied cells. And the victim was from a rival cell within the same organization who were at odds against leadership. So when you hear them say, "You got on the wrong side," perhaps that's what they meant. So within my research, I believe it could be either one of these cartels, the Los Zetas, the La Familia Michoacana, or the CJNG. The Los Zetas are very much known for their severe levels of barbarism, often showing no limits to what they do to shock their opposition. These cartels are all about sending a message that they're not to be messed with. And if you're a connoisseur of this type of content, you'll know that there's plenty of other videos like this, but some would consider the Los Zetas to be pioneers, for the lack of a better word, during this era, when it comes to shock videos like this. I could literally go on about how some of these cartels have delved into consuming actual human parts, but I won't stray off too far from the topic at hand, perhaps in another video, but I will say is that the Los Zetas aren't unfamiliar with it. None of these cartels have publicly acknowledged the existence of Funkytown that we know of, so who do you think is really behind it? As of now, most of the cartels that I've spoken about, such as the Los Zetas and the Gulf Cartel, have become more decentralized, often dividing into multiple cells that often fight against each other for controlled territories. While still active, LFM has weakened and fragmented in the recent years. It's likely that the guys who filmed the video aren't even on this earth anymore. As someone who's had a phase of watching this type of content, it's really not good for your mental health. But the Funkytown video really stuck with me, and I wanted to get more research on it. It shows the true harsh realities that exist throughout the world, such as in Latin America, but some things in the world are just better off not knowing for your own sake. There's still a lot of mystery behind the Funkytown video, and I think that adds to the utter brutality of it. No one has openly claimed ownership of it, which is not uncommon among the cartel. Nowadays, these cartels have 4K videos of their horrific acts, flashy introductions and everything. Sometimes it's better to just watch some cartoons and detox your brain, rather than some good old shock content. You'll feel much better, promise.